What's up, guys? Roman Janeiro of Empire Sports Talk here, and we've got to talk about something. Look, the NFL Pro Bowl, everybody knows that it's not taken seriously. Everybody knows the NFL has a Pro Bowl problem. Even the NFL knows it has a Pro Bowl problem. That's why they pivoted to a minigame style of setup more than a regular game. And I've said this about a lot of sports, and I know this is going to be nothing we haven't talked about before, but it is what it is still, because we still look at Pro Bowl selections and All-Star selections in other sports as a metric for, say, a Hall of Fame resume. And I'm sure that's going to change in the coming years as more and more people are realizing that these types of things are heavily skewed. And the reason it is heavily skewed is because the Pro Bowl, like pretty much all sports these days, is fan voted. And as long as you have a situation where something is fan voted, it cannot be part of the discussion when you're talking about Hall of Fame resumes. But that's not what I'm talking about here today. What I'm talking about here today is the fact that Shedeur Sanders has been added as a Pro Bowl replacement and is officially a Pro Bowler. And it's made even worse by the fact that he was a replacement for Drake Maye, who won't be participating because he's in the Super Bowl. So you're replacing a Super Bowl quarterback with a guy who, albeit he only played 8 games, tallied 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So if you look at his game log, if you take averages, that's about, let's say he started 7 of them, right? Let's say that's 200 yards and 1 passing touchdown a game. That's a Pro Bowler? That's a Pro Bowler by this metric. And I think this is the NFL's way of overcompensating for what they believed was an injustice in Shedeur Sanders being drafted in the 5th round. For what they believe, Shedeur Sanders not starting the first half of the season. And yes, again, fan voted. That's the only reason he's in here. They like him. Fans think that he should have been a starter. But the fact of the matter, look at these numbers. And that's why major American sports have a huge problem when it comes to their all-star games, their Pro Bowls, these kind of things, is because it's no longer about merit. 3-time Pro Bowler Sean Merriman came out when this news dropped yesterday and said, I have a Pro Bowl helmet in my house. I walk past it and it makes me proud. I went to a couple of these things. It used to mean something. And he has a point, because there was a period in the mid-2000s where Sean Merriman was one of, if not the best linebacker in football for that very short period of time. The Pro Bowl used to mean something. Now, we know that for a while it's meant nothing. Nobody watched it, and the NFL has done its best to try to counteract that and fix that to no avail. But to have a guy who played half a season, had more interceptions than touchdowns, had a QBR of 18.9, which, by the way, he doesn't even qualify in most statistical categories in terms of rankings. He didn't play enough. And then, add on top of that, Sanders ranked 46th out of 48 qualified NFL quarterbacks in the Pro Football Network QB impact metric. Statistically, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL in terms of impact. His 68.1 passer rating was among the lowest in the league in 2025. And yet, somehow, Shedeur Sanders is a Pro Bowler. Now, again, this all comes back to fan voting. We've heard that fans in Atlanta aren't super thrilled with the Kevin Stefanski coach hiring because of the way he handled Shedeur Sanders. And obviously, Deion Sanders is a huge part of the culture in Atlanta, so it makes sense that they wouldn't be very happy about Kevin Stefanski. But whether this is an overcorrection of him being a 5th-round selection or fans manufacturing some story about him being this great player in 2025 when the numbers overwhelmingly say otherwise, or if this is the NFL or NFL fans' way of luring Deion to the NFL. I don't know. Point being is that ESPN has lauded Shedeur Sanders for so long. The fake outrage that Mel Kiper showed on the day that Shedeur Sanders was drafted, I still think about that because there were several picks in the 5th round that did not get to hear their name called, did not get to hear themselves be talked about because the crew on the NFL draft was outraged about Shedeur Sanders being taken in the 5th round, so they just completely steamrolled the next several picks. Once in a lifetime opportunity for those following picks, 5th round or not, to hear their name called, to hear their season talked about, was wiped away because of some fake outrage for a 5th rounder, whether you thought he belonged there or not. And now, he's selected to the Pro Bowl, and at least at this point in the morning, it's 10:32 a.m. when I'm recording this, ESPN has been completely silent about Shedeur Sanders being in the Pro Bowl because the consensus among football fans is this is a joke. Shedeur Sanders being a Pro Bowler in 2025 is a joke. I'm not saying he can't be a legitimate Pro Bowler or a legitimate quarterback in the NFL in the future. But for fans to put him in 2025 based on these numbers is ridiculous. And I do want to cut fans a little bit of slack here because Pro Bowl replacements are traditionally selected by the NFL based on a ranked list of alternates during the initial voting process. So while the fans may have cast a lot of votes for Shedeur Sanders in the initial voting process, when Drake Maye dropped out, the NFL looked at the list of options they had and they said, we'll go with Shedeur Sanders. And you could say, you look at statistics, and there's no version of these statistics that tell you he should be a Pro Bowler. Even if you look at the bottom of the list of qualified quarterbacks in QBR, Cam Ward had a 33.1. That's almost double Shedeur Sanders. Cam Ward had a passer rating of 80.2. That's 12 points higher than Shedeur Sanders. Carson Wentz was in the top 6 of yards per game this season. Baker Mayfield ranked 7th among all quarterbacks in passing touchdowns. Mac Jones, despite being Brock Purdy's primary backup, played more games than Shedeur Sanders and finished 2nd in the NFL in completion percentage. He also had fewer interceptions and almost twice as many touchdowns as Shedeur Sanders. The NFL has a problem, and it goes beyond just the Pro Bowl itself. These All-Star games and Pro Bowls have become nothing more than popularity contests. And then in the NBA, you have a situation where you fan vote in captains, and then the captains just pick who they want on their team. Major American sports have a huge All-Star game exhibition problem. But this, for the NFL to choose Sanders as Drake Maye's replacement, again, that is telling of a bigger problem. That the quarterback who's going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, the quarterback that will likely finish either 1 or 2 in the NFL MVP race, is being replaced by a guy with 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and 18.9 QBR for a team that was one of the worst in the NFL and currently doesn't have an NFL head coach. Shedeur Sanders is a Pro Bowler, and the NFL has a problem. Until next time, I am Roman Janeiro. This is Empire Sports Talk, and I'll see you on the next one.